My name is Cole, and my insect is Dactylospira vitrifoli, or the Grape Phylloxera.
My name is Grant, and my insect is Homolodisca vitripennis, or the glassy-winged sharpshooter.
And our topic is which is worst for wine production. Well, let's start off by saying that the Grape Phylloxera is spread widely across the U.S., but is native to the East Coast. They produce small bumps on leaves called galls and can cause significant damage if they infect the roots. The Grape Phylloxera targets both cultivated and wild grapes. The insect comes in a wingless and winged form. Most of them are wingless females. The wingless form is small, yellow-brown, and resembles an aphid. The winged form is rare, also looks like an aphid, and holds its wings flat over its back. These wingless forms hatch in the spring and claw onto grapevines, creating the galls. They crawl onto the leaves and plant the galls where eggs are laid, creating a high-speed reproductive cycle that is really hard to stop. The galls on the roots are attacked by nymphs, which are hatched from the eggs, and then they start new galls on the roots. The galls they produce are small, about a quarter of an inch in diameter, and are an iconic characteristic of the Grape Phylloxera. The galls look like knots and can cause decay, especially in the root system. European varieties of grapevines are highly vulnerable to the insect, but American root systems are resistant to the galls. They damage the root systems by feeding on the root, which can swell, but if the root is hardened and mature, it can be hard to see evidence of the infestation. After this, necrotic spots develop due to fungal infections caused by the Grape Phylloxera, killing large parts of the root system. Additionally, they spread through human interaction and crawling between vines, making it contagious. All of this can cause the growth of the vines to be stunted and grow fewer grapes. All in all, the Grape Phylloxera is the most deadly pest to wine production. Considering its devastating galls, vast numbers, and difficulty to stop, it is no wonder why winemakers across the world are terrified of this insect.
Oh, you're done. Okay. The glassy-winged sharpshooter, known as Homolodisca vitripennis, is typically found within northeastern parts of Mexico and southwestern parts of the United States, primarily California, and was likely introduced to the United States unintentionally as an egg in the 1980s through plant importation. The adults are about half an inch in length and are typically brown or blackish in color. Xylella fastidiosa, the plant pathogenic bacterium it transmits from plant to plant, is arguably the most damaging issue surrounding the insect. After feeding from an infected plant, the Xylella fastidiosa bacterium roots itself in the cibarium and other parts of the sharpshooter's mouth. The incredibly wide range of plants that can fall victim to the bacterium makes it all the more dangerous. While not all of its victims meet the same fatal end, many important plants and crops, such as wine grapes, do. The bacterium the Homolodisca vitripennis passes along to grapes often results in Pierce's disease, which is lethal to many grapevines, including those intended for wine production. Even before it kills the wine grapes, Xylella fastidiosa causes incredible damage to the vines, such as scorched leaves, delayed bud break, and a reduced yield. Another notable feature of the glassy-winged sharpshooter is its wings. Unlike some other insects, the glassy-winged sharpshooter is able to fly from plant to plant fairly quickly. There's no need for them to slowly walk on their legs to get around like some sort of peasant. They can come into contact with many different grapes incredibly quickly and pass the Xylella fastidiosa bacterium to them in the process. No other insect could possibly be more devastating agriculturally nor economically than the glassy-winged sharpshooter is for wine production, and frankly, I'd like to see you try to convince me otherwise.
You see, Grant, the difference between our insects is that my insect single-handedly destroys grapevines and doesn't rely on additional bacteria to get the job done. The galls that my insect creates block the vines of essential nutrients, severely limiting the potential for growth and output. The leaves and roots can be affected, blocking the entire plant. In fact, in some cases, the bacteria that the glassy-winged sharpshooter spreads doesn't even damage grapevines. The galls that the grape Phylloxera create are superior in destroying wine production because of their ability to take over a vine through numbers. Additionally, the grape Phylloxera is more widespread than the glassy-winged sharpshooter, thus making it affect more grapevines. There are also uses of biological control, such as small wasps that can use to kill these glassy-winged sharpshooters remotely, which is an extremely simple and effective control method. I have yet to be convinced of the power of the glassy-winged sharpshooter, apart from the measly Xylella fastidiosa.
Ah, look, I hear and understand your arguments and do appreciate the effort you've put into this. But let me be clear. Last year, California researchers found that my insect, the glassy-winged sharpshooter, has contributed to over $100 million in damages every single year to California's grape industry alone. I can't imagine any other pest coming even close to the extraordinary damages to the wine industry than the almighty glassy-winged sharpshooter. To sit here and claim to the tens of people watching us at home that some grape Phylloxera, if that is its real name, is more harmful to the wine industry than the far superior glassy-winged sharpshooter is absolutely preposterous. And you should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting such a thing. In addition, the notion that the glassy-winged sharpshooter is somehow less of a threat to wine production because it relies on bacteria to harm the grapes is laughable. The bacteria wouldn't be transmitted from plant to plant in the first place if it wasn't for the Homolodisca vitripennis. Don't discredit it for working smarter and not harder.
Unlike your insect, my insect has no biological or chemical controls. Control of the grape Phylloxera entails completely removing and replacing the plant, which is much more costly and more complex to manage than the glassy-winged sharpshooter. In fact, in Queensland, Australia, it is mandated under the Biosecurity Act of 2014 that suspected grape Phylloxera be reported to the government and the insect is expressly prohibited. My insect can also be present without showing symptoms, which makes the infestation even more transmittable. It only takes one insect to start the infestation, as one female can lay up to 400 eggs multiple times a season. They spread through human interaction, such as picking them up on clothes, shoes, or even garden tools. Not only that, but they can spread on their own by crawling to other vines in close proximity. These insects produce asexually, as no male has been found up to this point. Based on this evidence, the great Phylloxera is far more dangerous than the glassy-winged sharpshooter. Its ability to spread quickly and not be stopped makes it much, much worse for wine production.
Foolish boy, your confidence amuses me. If the glassy-winged sharpshooter is so easy to control and mitigate, why is it still wreaking havoc on wine grapes in the United States? Regardless if your insect is harder to detect or not, the devastation of the glassy-winged sharpshooter would be much lower than it has been and continues to be if these controls were widespread and effective. If these controls were able to stop the unyielding barrage of Homolodisca vitripennis, research solely dedicated to determining how to minimize its damages would not have been conducted as recently as last year. Oh, and by the way, these wine grapes are incapable of being cured from the lethal Xylella fastidiosa bacteria once a glassy-winged sharpshooter introduces them to it. If my all-powerful glassy-winged sharpshooter gets loose and is given access to California's precious wine grapes, it will transmit fatal bacteria to them, wipe them out, and show no mercy whatsoever.
Look, Grant, grape Phylloxera is the worst pest for wine production. Not only will it stunt and slow the growth of all grapevines, but it will kill all European varieties within 3 to 10 years of infestation. The infestation can also make the wine poor in quality. No one likes bad wine. It can target large areas of grapevines, leading to catastrophic damage that can be extremely hard to eradicate. The galls that the insect creates are devastating, and its ability to spread quickly can negatively impact the world economically, agriculturally, and to the local level of farmers. All in all, the Grape Phylloxera is much harder to control and is more deadly and widespread than the Glassy-Winged Sharpshooter. If I were a winemaker, I would be horrified by the possibility of a Grape Phylloxera infestation. The possibility of a Glassy-Winged Sharpshooter infestation? No, not so much.
Okay. Of every insect on Earth, one shot at grapevine destruction, fate of the universe on the line, Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth. You better kill it. I want the glassy-winged sharpshooter.
Come on now.
Look, the glassy-winged sharpshooter has ice in its veins. It's that type of insect. When the bacteria it carries in its mouth parts is exposed to grapevines dedicated to wine production, there's no stopping it. Its ability to stay somewhat resilient to a wide array of typical insect removal methods only increases its sheer ferocity. It's so threatening that research has been conducted on stopping it and concluded that more research is needed to figure out mitigation methods. Look, if it was merely a minor inconvenience, research by the Department of Agriculture, yeah, that Department of Agriculture, focused on preserving wine grapes wouldn't need to revolve around the glassy-winged sharpshooter. Additionally, that same research concluded that simple insecticides were far from sufficient in mitigating the glassy-winged sharpshooter. Since the Homolodisca vitripennis is both abundant in number and carrying the Xylella fastidiosa bacteria through late summer, this creates yet another problem for wine grape growers. Since late summer is the optimal time of year to pick wine grapes, it's far too late to spray them with insecticides before being picked. That's something that must be avoided at all costs.
Listen, Grant, I can see from now there's no point in arguing about it. We're set in our ways. Uh, why don't we just agree to disagree, move on, and acknowledge that both these insects are really bad for wine production?
I do agree with you, and it's always helpful to hear a wide variety of opinions that you may disagree with from time to time. But you are wrong. So there's really nothing else I can do.
Why I oughta.